welcome to Hard Copy, coming to you from our studios in Abuja. I'm Maokpe Ogun-Yusuf. Merry Christmas to you and all of yours. It is indeed the season to be jolly, relax, and spend quality time with family. And speaking of family, that very nucleus of society, which seems to be in grave danger today, given the many threats which it faces. What premium do we place on that little but all-important unit? What premium do we place on raising our children who grow up to be the next leaders and workforce of tomorrow? The next generation who will decide through the values and norms we'll instill in them what shape society will be in tomorrow and for years to come. Well, a recent conversation with a colleague in the office left both of us reeling in laughter because we could have sworn that our parents had studied the same manual for parenting, and that will go for many people around my age bracket. However, we're now being told that these techniques don't fit into the modern age anymore. So tonight, I want to learn more. I want us to open our minds, question what we already know, and ask if today's parents and guardians have been fully equipped to nurture and raise the next generation. My guests tonight are Dr. Vivian Okoyes, who is an optometrist by training, but now a certified child psychologist. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
And we also have with us Oluwatoyin Ogunkanmi, who is a parenting coach and a child psychologist as well. Ladies, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us.
Well, you have both written books on the subject matter. Mr. Toyin, you have written this book, Smart Parenting, and Dr. Okoye, you have this book, Your Toddler and You.
Yes.
Now, child whisperers, child psychologists, I don't know if child psychologists existed, but parenting coaches, I know that term probably did not exist 10 years ago.
Yeah.
No.
So how did you know this was a path for you? I mean, what was the void you saw in society that you thought needed to be filled?
Okay. Like you said, the family is the nucleus of the society, and anything we want to achieve as a society boils down to we're a product of family members, we're products of the people who come from families, and our society is a reflection of what is happening in the family. As an optometrist, I worked on a project some time ago. It's called the Bartimeus Project. We went around schools in Abuja to screen young children between the ages of 6 and 12. That's people in the primary schools. And I saw a huge gap. Apart from...
What did you see?
Now, you have children who are suffering from a lot of issues that parents were not aware of. Let me give you an instance. I had a child who was blind in one eye, and the parents did not know. And when we told him to bring his mom to the clinic for further investigation, he said, I don't get to see my mom in the morning. Before I wake up in the morning, she has gone to work. And by the time she comes back from work, I'm already asleep. So I will bring the nanny. I'll tell the nanny to tell my mom. Growing up myself, my parents did an okay job with what they knew at the time. But I felt that there was a lot of emotional gap. Our parents were more focused on providing the physical than being available emotionally or trying to connect. So when you see, when you look in the society, you see a lot of people who have that self-esteem issues. We have a lot of children who cannot express themselves. You have people who have issues with delayed gratification. These are all a reflection of what is happening in the home. And when you see what is happening in the society, you know that we have to speak up. We have to get it right at the basis of the society.
So was that your story as well?
For mine, that wasn't my story. My story was all about me. When I had my son, my first child,
How many do you have now?
I have 3. My first is going to be 16, 14.
16? You're teenagers already. Great.
So I have 2 teenagers and a preteen. So mine started, I stumbled into parenting based on the fact I was looking for help. I was seeking knowledge. I was seeking more tools to raise my children properly. So my first son...
Why did you think you needed help?
Okay, let me start with it. My first son, he is a strong-willed child. And you know, I'm not strong-willed. I'm more of the quiet child, obedient child. Do this, I'll do that. Sit down, I'll sit down. So imagine having a child you have to tell to sit down, and he wants to do the opposite. And at that point in time, I just couldn't connect. The only thing I knew how to do then was to either scream at him, either beat him or just shout at him. I was doing more of control more than connecting. So I realized that the way I was raising him, the same way I was raising my second and my third. So my house, people could just walk into my house and you could hear people shouting. They're trying to settle their differences by screaming. I was like, no, I can't continue like this. There is something I need to do. So the process of seeking help, I realized that I had to start with myself first. So parenting starts with the parent. You need to be in that place where you're emotionally stable, you're mentally prepared, and you're physically fit to raise your children. So I had to seek help for myself. I went for emotional intelligence training. I went for anger management training. And
anger management?
Oh, yeah. Yes. I have to go for that.
Yes.
And, you know, the reason is that I've been soft-spoken. Imagine someone that's soft-spoken and you're bottling up so many issues. The day you would explode, you're going to explode real bad. And that was what was happening to me. I could be very quiet, but in the process, over time, when I had to explode, I would explode really bad. So I went to seek help for myself. And in the process, I realized that there might be other parents out there who really need this help. And that was why I went for certification in parenting, coaching, and that's why I'm a parenting coach today.
Well, I'm going to give up one major secret today. I mean, I was in no hurry to become a parent because I understood very, very clearly the responsibility it places on you. The instance you just painted, talking about the child who says, I cannot bring my mother because before I wake up in the morning, she's gone. By the time she gets back, I'm asleep.
Yeah.
Isn't that more the demand of today's society, rather than the parents not wanting to connect with the child? Because I'm sure there are many mothers out there who feel guilty. Perhaps it is during this holiday period that they will have that time to connect and see what has been happening in their children's lives. Can you break it down? How do you expect parents to cope with parenting their children and the demands of modern day society?
Well, the demands of modern day society is very undeniable. You have to work, you have to make money because the bills are not smiling. But then we also say you should try to, as much as possible, strike a balance. When we say be there for your children or show presence, it doesn't have to be, it is not equated in the number of hours you spend, but how present you are when you're with your child. You can spend 5 minutes with your child, but be present and let the child know that I am here for you. I used to work in a private organization and my schedule was tight. So what I used to do then, I used to dedicate the 5 minutes, the first 5 to 15 minutes of getting home to just being present, right? Because when you get home and you get into the day, you have a lot of things to do. And before you know it, it's night and you're sleeping and you haven't really been present with your children. So what I used to do, I'll just get home by the door, fling my bag on the couch, and I'll get down to the floor. And I spent that 5-10 minutes asking, how was your day? And it was just 5 to 10 minutes of presence. But it made a lot of things. I get to know how their day was. And the child felt connected. And this also helps you because you realize that when you're not there for your children, when you now finally come there, they tend to seek your attentions and maybe sometimes in inappropriate ways. They might start to throw tantrums or start to misbehave just to catch your attention. But when you give them that presence, you can now say, oh, okay, let me go and make dinner. I'll be right back, right? So it's about creating a time for connection. It doesn't have to be, you can't be with your child 24 hours a day, but be present and pay attention. Then get the right support systems for when you're not there. And also the father, it's a teamwork. So you try to function it in a way that one parent at a time is available for the child for when the other is not totally available.
Maybe we're biased on this program. There's no man here. But I know that there are men who are parenting coaches as well.
Yes.
However, I'm sure you'll also be able to speak to the role of fathers. Let me ask you this. I mean, they always used to say that, yes, one person might have a child, but it takes a village to raise the child. Is it still true today, considering how insular we're becoming?
Well, I would not say it's that easy anymore because right now we have people living in isolation. We have people living in houses with high fences. We have neighbors not knowing themselves. So it's not like that anymore. Unlike before where you could have your neighbor knowing what is happening. You're coming back from school, you could stop over at your neighbor's place. But that's not the way it is anymore. Right now, we're more or less living in isolation. Everyone is trying to guard his or her privacy. So it's not like that anymore.
Is it a sad thing or is it a good thing?
Well, it's a two-way thing. It's a sad thing, and it's also a good thing in the sense that your child is being protected from the unknown outside, the danger outside. Unlike normally, when you hear of child abuse, you hear of sexual abuse, it's mostly someone related to the child, someone related to the house, someone related to the parent. So unlike now that your house, you have your children in your house, you don't have strangers coming in, you don't have relations coming in, staying with your children. You know what's happening in your house. For parents are very deliberate. Unlike before where you could have one uncle, one cousin. Most cases of sexual abuse has been due to family members known, extended family members known, people known to the family. So I think it's a two-way thing. It's a good thing and it's not a good thing.
Yeah, because I was going to take Dr. Vivian on a post that she made recently when the holidays were about to start. You put this up on Instagram. You said, don't let anyone bully you into bullying your child.
Yeah.
And you said change of environment might affect your children's behavior. You're most likely to experience tantrums.
Yeah.
But the difference is that it may be happening in front of many eyes, watching and pressuring you in a way that suits their ideas and ego, which might be true, but when you talked about the eyes, the judgmental eyes, being the eyes of aunties, uncles, grandmas, and grandpas, I was like, what is she talking about? Are you saying that these people have no role in raising children?
No, I'm not saying they don't have a role. Of course, you can have somebody who would encourage you to do the right thing when you're doing, obviously, something that is not good for your child. But what I was just trying to pass across by that post was, make sure that the decision you're making is for the best interest of your child. Most times, parents overreact to their children's behaviors, especially in public, not because of the magnitude of what the child did, but because a lot of people are watching you to do something. Like your child is crying in public. Probably the child is hungry. On a normal day, if people were not judging you with their eyes, you would have probably said, oh, hold on, we're soon going to get to the food. And then these people are looking at, why is the child crying? Why can't you're a bad mother? As in, that's what you sense. People are looking at you like you don't have control over your child, and then before you know it, you're triggered and you flip, and then you're hitting a child whom you obviously know is complaining about something that is a legitimate frustration for them, right? So what I was just passing across by that post is, in as much as there are going to be lots of advices from people, take them with a smile, but do what is best for you and your child by time.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, I've been there, the judgmental eyes. I know that I have looked at children in church when they are running up and down, and I'm wondering, what are the parents of the children? Why are they running everywhere? You know, that has happened and it's still happening. Would you say that parents of today are a little more relaxed with raising children, or do they feel the demands that the way they feel that they should raise their children in the way that they were raised? I don't know if you've seen that.
There are actually two answers to that. You have some parents wanting to give their children everything based on the fact that, oh, while growing up, my parents didn't provide this for me. My parents they were not that financially buoyant to do certain things for me. So you have certain parents wanting to spoil the children. That's one extreme. The other extreme is you have another set of parents that they want to be strict. You have to do things the way this was how my mom taught me, and this is the way you have to do it. Not putting into cognizance the child's personality, the child's love language, the child's learning style. So that's why I said that they're actually
personality, love language,
and learning style.
At what age are we talking about this?
Children come with personalities. Children are born with personalities.
And we have to start acknowledging that.
Oh, yes. You need to, one of the best way for you to connect with your child is you understanding your child, you knowing who that child is. I tell parents, every child is unique. Like I have 3 children, they're all different. The way A behaves is different from the way B and C. So I have to be able to understand each child based on their personality, based on their love language, based on their learning style, even based on their multiple skills. For example, you could have a child that is a sanguine, a child that is everywhere, loves to talk, loves to be the life of the party. And you, the mom, you're not like that. So to you, you're wondering, why is this child behaving like this? Why is this child all over the place? Can't this child just be quiet and behave like me? Well, the child is not you. So you need to be able to understand that that is that child's personality. You could have another child whose skill could be, okay,
We'll have to take a break at this moment. Yes, we have to take a moment. When we return, the huge question of discipline.
Oh, yeah.
Does corporal punishment still have a place? Or should it be banned in totality when it comes to parenting? When we come back from this break, do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Hard Copy, coming to you from our studios in Abuja. Tonight, we're having a family-focused conversation on parenting. And we have here with us Dr. Vivian Okoyes and Oluwatoyin Ogunkami. And we're about to delve into the question of discipline. Now, I want to ask either of you, when would you say a child is difficult? Let me start with you, because you had the experience where you were calm, you had a really strong-willed child. At that point, did you think your child was difficult? And when you finally sought help, did you still see the child as difficult?
Okay, I'll start with the second question. After seeking help, I understand my child better now. I know who he is, I know what he can do, I know how to discipline him effectively. Initially, I thought he was difficult because I didn't know him. I didn't understand who a strong-willed child is, how to handle a strong-willed child. But when I went through the necessary training, knowledge seeking, I now understood, I now know who a strong-willed child is, and I know how to handle a strong-willed child. So in terms of talking about difficult children, most times we tend not to understand our children. That's why we term them difficult. And when you label a child wrongly, you're indirectly prophesying into the life of the child, and the child ends up becoming what you've said the child is and which the child is not. But for parents, I tell parents, you need to understand who your child is. You need to know who he is, his personality. For children that are strong-willed, they want to do things their way. There are better ways of allowing them to do things their way, but will actually be your way.
I bet there are people watching out there saying, no, I don't agree. There are people who, there are children that are just stubborn.
No.
Do you agree, Dr. Okoye?
Well, I always say there's no stubborn child.
There's no stubborn child?
There's no stubborn child. You just have spirited, strong-willed children. Just like she said, I think the major problem is in the communication link. So most parents have the idea that they don't need to explain things to their children. The child doesn't understand. But children understand more than we do, and they're also seeking to be heard. They're also seeking a dialogue. They're also seeking a place on the table. Let's talk about these things. Just like she said, there is a way to communicate to a strong-willed child. So you think your child is stubborn simply because the child wants what they want. You're trying to tell the child, do this thing, and the child wants to do it this way. A strong-willed child will always question you. Why?
Why?
So a strong-willed child is that child who wants to know, why do I have to do it like that? So for that child, you need to communicate more than that child who is just a simple child whom you say, sit down, and the child sits. That other child will not sit. Why do I have to sit down? I want to be on the table. So you have to explain to that child, this is why you sit. This is the consequences if you don't sit, right? And sometimes for a strong-willed child, you just have to offer choices. Just give them a choice. So you're making them feel that they are doing things their own way. Meanwhile, you're making them do what you want them to do. So instead of, okay, do you want to sit down here or sit down here? So that child thinks, okay, that is telling me to choose where to sit. And the child sits. But if you say to a strong-willed child, sit down here, the child will not sit. The child will want to push your limits and try to see if they can have their way. So it's about effective communication. First, understanding your child and their personality and learning how to communicate to that personality.
Okay, I hope you're listening. About to pull out their hair over stubborn children. But, you know, talking about that, one of the things that we see fading out gradually in schools is the question of using the rod. I mean, spare the rod, spoil the child, is the famous biblical quote, right? And a lot of people still hold on to it. Perhaps rightly so. I don't know, you guys can define rightly or wrongly.
But there's a proper part in the Bible that says if your child is disobedient, bring the child out and beat the child and kill the child and all that, but we don't do that. So most times we tend to pick the part that suits us in the Bible or wherever holy book we are quoting. But there's also a place in the Bible that says if you have a child that is rude, unruly, take the child out to the extreme of the gatehouse, kill the child, and do all that. But we don't do that.
I haven't seen that part.
Oh, it's in the Bible. It's in Deuteronomy. It's in Deuteronomy. It's there.
Okay, so would you say that there is a place for the rod, though, in today's parenting? Is there?
Okay. The reason why psychologists say parents should not beat their children is because most times we tend to beat our children out of anger. In the process of beating your child out of anger, you're not correcting the child anymore. You're punishing the child. So when you're beating your child, are you beating your child out of anger or you're correcting your child? That's the first question most parents need to know or need to answer by themselves. Am I beating my child because I'm correcting my child, or I'm beating my child because I'm inflicting pain on the child? And I posted today, I said, most times we discipline our children out of anger. It's no more about the misbehavior, but it's about your emotion at that point in time. So at every point in time, as a parent, you need to check your emotion when you're disciplining your child. Am I disciplining this child to correct the child, or I'm disciplining this child to inflict pain on the child? Very important question.
That's a major distinction, whether you're correcting to inflict pain or whether you're
disciplining to correct.
Okay, so how you've already talked about differentiating. How would you then realize, or how do you help the child realize that you're correcting? Do you use the rod? I'm just wondering. I know you have 2 young children. Have you ever been tempted at any point in time to?
I used to, but I realized that at the end of the day, you end up instilling fear more than correcting.
Sure.
Is fear such a bad thing? Because people say, oh, I'd rather be feared than loved, or I don't know, or I'd rather be respected.
The aim, your duty as a parent is actually to teach your children skills, to help them understand, so that at the end of the day, they can make decisions by themselves, right? Now, the aim of discipline is to bring a child who has misbehaved to repentance and to the realization that I have done something wrong, and to help them, equip them to think through what they have done and make better choices in future. And using the rod doesn't do that. Using the rod just shuts down the child at the moment, instills fear, doesn't give the child a fair chance of explaining, because sometimes you're beating the children for things that may just be a mistake. A child is walking and slips and the water falls, you're spanking the child. You could as well have made similar mistake. I have a friend who said he broke a bottle of groundnut and the father beat the hell out of him. And then the next day, the father is coming home with a bottle of groundnut and broke it. So who beats the father? So you understand? So you have to first of all ascertain that, hear from the child. If you follow through the process of discipline, you may not get to that point of using the rod.
Well, I want to know, though, from what your parents did and what you now currently do, what are you doing differently?
Okay, now science says that a child who is born in this time is 5 years older than their age, who were born prior to the 21st century. So children now are wise. You can see the question, some of the things I hear from my daughter, I wonder, like when I was 5 years old, I couldn't imagine talking about those things. Now, our parents did, to the best of their knowledge, what they knew how to do. They didn't know the effects of those things on the brain of the child. The first 7 years is very vital in a child's life. So this, if you keep on inflicting pain on a child, it does some damage to the brain of the child.
Well, I'm so sorry, Dr. Okoye. we have to interrupt this, and we have to wrap up now. So that we're totally out of time. But I have to thank both of you, and I know that this is a conversation that will be ongoing.
Yes.
I'm sure our viewers, if you're on Instagram, you can follow either of them, Dr. Vivian Okoyes and Oluwatoyin Ogunkomi. Thank you to both of you.
Thank you for
sharing your festive season and leaving your precious children at home.
Oh my goodness.
Come and talk to us.
Thank you for having us.
Well, that's how we leave the program tonight. We hope that you've enjoyed it and learned a thing or two about raising children. We also hope to hear from you. Use the handles showing on your screen to give us some feedback. And that's where we leave it. Thank you for watching. I'm Okoyes. Good night.